It's time to Find a Way with Coach Brian Barone on KGSO.
In this episode of Find a Way, I'm talking about March Madness and how the NCAA Selection Committee has given us some great storylines. The storyline that always kicks off the NCAA Tournament is about the teams that didn't make the tournament at all, even though they sat in front of the TV and waited or even expected their name to be called. On the surface, this is sad for the coaches and athletes that got snubbed. To participate in such an extraordinary event is an amazing feeling and experience. It is a culmination of a lifetime of work for some. For the NCAA to have a room full of people looking at analytics justifying one team over another will always be a topic to be argued. There's something to be said for a team that is clearly good enough to participate in the tournament but slips up one game in their conference tournament and therefore is punished for a lifetime. It is not just an emotional pain when the team does not make the NCAA tournament. There's great financial pain as well. The NCAA tournament earns the NCAA governing body somewhere around $900 million in revenue. This accounts for over 90% of its overall annual revenue. The NCAA explains that 96% of that money is then put back into the university and conferences that participate in the NCAA tournament. A team that finds a way into the tournament and plays one game will receive about $1.7 million over a 6-year payout period. The more they win, the more money they receive. Basically, the system in place assigns a monetary value based on athletic performance. For some of the major universities and conferences that participate, the money received from the tournament is a cherry on top, so to speak. However, for the mid-major and low-major conferences, the money they receive from the tournament is vital. That is why a mid-major conference craves so badly for wins in hopes that 2 teams from their conference can make the tournament. That brings in double the money to be distributed. If they happen to wear a Cinderella slipper and win multiple games, it puts the schools and conference in a position to thrive for years. Mid-major teams that lose only 1 or 2 games in their conference season, but doesn't win the conference tournament, typically do not make the NCAA tournament. Their only hope is that their non-conference schedule puts them in position to justify a spot in the tournament. Often you will hear an analyst say that they had a weak non-conference schedule. This is flawed for 2 main reasons. Coaches are hired and fired based on wins and losses. It is a fine line to schedule only games that are deemed worthy of an NCAA tournament resume and scheduling games in which you can win consistently. High major teams can buy wins. They play a schedule in their conference which allows them to obtain enough wins to get to the tournament while also paying non-conference opponents up to the amount of $90,000 to $100,000 a game to generate more wins. The second flaw in the scheduling argument is that often games are scheduled years prior to the season at hand. At some point, the NCAA needs to find a way to use the eye test and reward teams that are good and that have had a great season. If the decision makers were willing to simply accept that the numbers don't always add up, but the teams do, then giving some teams the invitation goes a very long way. It is the difference for some teams and conferences finding a way to stay afloat, while others are just adding to their dominance. I'm Coach Brian Barone, and that's your tip of the day to Find a Way.